It is Talking Reds, it is Neil Atkinson, I've got Josh Sexton, and I've got Craig Hannan. Lucky me, because there isn't a lot of Craig Hannan to be had in the city of Liverpool today, because Craig Hannan is leaving for the town of Ipswich. What time are you on the road for Ipswich?
I would go after this show, but I have to wait on Sam to do some work, so it's going to be 3 p.m, Sam? 3 p.m?
We've got a call about the book as well, to be fair.
Shit, yeah, I've got that as well, yeah. Other important matters.
Good on you, excellent stuff.
Yeah, I knew. 3 p.m, 3:30. I'm excited, really excited.
So there we are, powered all the way to Ipswich. Craig Hannan will be by NordVPN. It would also power in this show, Talking Reds all the way through. When you go to places like Ipswich, to be able to trust your Wi-Fi, it's very useful to have a VPN provider, and Craig will be using Nord. You can sign up, nordvpn.com/TAW. It gives you 4 free months at the minute and discounts. We'll talk more about that to come in a minute or two. The manager's done his press conference, but I almost want to sidestep a couple of elements of that, Josh. At least in the early going, by virtue of firstly talking about the fact that it's very exciting. I think it's also worth saying Craig's going to go to quite possibly the most excited town in the country at 3 p.m. today, because whether we like it or not, Ipswich are absolutely up for this. It's back-to-back promotions. I was rereading Jonathan Liu's piece from when they actually confirmed promotion back in May, and the way the town was, the whole attitude, people coming from miles around, wanting to be part of it. We need to sort of remember that and almost have a little bit of a humility around it. It's exciting for us, new manager, but it's so exciting for them. Yeah,
and Slot was actually asked a question about that in his press conference, and it was a bit of an interesting question, really, because the journalist phrased it as though, you know, Ipswich have not been in the Premier League for over 20 years. Is it harder to prepare for an opposition like that? And Slot gave them all the respect in the world, which is exactly what you'd expect, really. And he talked about how much that town is going to be alive, how much the stadium's going to be alive, how much Liverpool are anticipating the atmosphere there really being up. And you've seen how teams have been undone by that in the past. I think it was the first game that Brentford came up, they beat Arsenal on a Friday night, didn't they? Yeah. Which I'm pleased to remind Sam behind the camera there. So, because we were at Craig's wedding, I'm pretty sure when that happened. I'm sure that's right. That's right. So yeah, like this, it is dead interesting when these promoted teams come up and listen. Ipswich have been signing lads. I wonder what that feels like. That must be nice as well. They signed Sammy Smodix from Blackburn today, who has the best name in football, I'm saying. So yeah, they'll be right up for it. But Liverpool should be as well. Like it's obviously exciting for Ipswich being in the Premier League, and we shouldn't take any of that for granted from an opposition point of view. But also, you know, we've got this new manager. I've seen the footage of Trent and him messing about in training yesterday, which is absolutely brilliant. And it's sort of good to see that there's that camaraderie there already with someone who arrived, you know, late into the squad. So imagine what it'd be like with the lads who've been there the whole time.
I think them being up for it, I think you can say, obviously, the times your strengths are your weaknesses and your weaknesses are your strengths, Josh. They're going to look... The crowd's going to be a certain way. Ipswich last season, their games involved the most goals in the Championship. They scored the most goals and they weren't quite the tightest at the back. A lot of it was them hanging in games. A lot of it was them believing. But they also tried to go at teams. And I think that, you know, on the whole this season, that might be a little bit tricky for them. But I do wonder whether or not the idea of Portman Road's loud, it's lively, Liverpool playing the way we've seen under Slot, just sort of giving them a bit of hope. I wonder if that could actually play into Liverpool's hands, because by the time, if things go well, by the time we get to December, when we go away from home, there might be a lot of teams just basically camped in their own half going, we're not going to fall for this. I think it'll be hard for Ipswich tomorrow not to play aggressive front foot football. That's not to say they're going to be throwing men forward all over the place, but every now and again the chance could be there for Liverpool to hit them on the counter.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because it's almost like football on a knife edge to an extent, because in one sense it's the worst time to play Ipswich, because we've talked about how much they'll be up and they'll all that optimism going into a new season, but in a way it's sort of the best time to play them, because they've yet to figure out what the Premier League is truly like and what their system is truly like with all the new players that are brought in. You know, what their system is like just in general off the back of, you know, last season and things like that. And you've seen how teams have sort of come a cropper when they've come up to the Premier League in the past, and they have been more attacking teams. We saw Burnley last season, who, you know, tried to play football the right way in inverted commas for the entire season, and it ended up ultimately being their undoing. They looked like the team set to go down from the very start, because they just conceded too many goals and didn't really score enough, even though they were playing that attacking football. So I'm dead interested to see what Ipswich will be like. They've been the promoted team that I'm probably the most fascinated by, because of the manager that they've got, because of the way they played football in the Championship last year. So I'm excited for Craig to get to go down there and experience it firsthand.
Yeah, it's not all Friday night, Craig. You've got to be fit and ready for business on Saturday morning as well, for the 12:30 kickoff. And I actually think I think there's a fighting chance that afterwards, when we've been talking about make sure the start's right, make sure you're getting more control of games, I think there is a chance Liverpool might end up in one tomorrow. And I think that Liverpool will win the game. But I think that this might be a test of, can you actually control certain sides? Because I think it's easy to say, control games. We want more control of games. But last season, Arsenal, who arguably were the most controlled team in the country, when they go away to Luton, it's a 4-3 that needed a last-minute Declan Rice winner. When City go to Luton last season, City, very controlled team, they go 1-0 down by half-time, they win the game 2-1. We end up in a 1-1 draw at Luton. I think you can try to talk up control, but the truth of it is sometimes the opposition can just make a game a bit mad, and I think tomorrow will be a bit of a test as to how much Liverpool can control, because there is a chance that Ipswich are just on one, and as I say, I expect to win the game, but we might be needing to be prepared in this one for at least a little bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think any Liverpool fans going into this thinking like this is going to be, it's going to be definitely 3-0 Liverpool. It's going to be one of these where we swept them away and right into the sunset away from Ipswich, which was a place I never thought I'd ever go to. By the way, Neil,
you excited?
No idea what to expect whatsoever. They're called the Tractor Boys, aren't they? So in my head, it's like loads of farms.
There's lots of farmland around,
and the Revolutions that we're going to tonight.
Yeah, but it's quite a busy town, and there's a port not too far away.
Nice, yeah. Connor's found that. So I always think with Championship clubs, whenever they come up and they've got like a more attacking identity, that it is that sort of funny place that they find themselves in. And I think for this game, as you say, like, with it being the home game, with it being Liverpool, because teams, I know from supporting Northern Ireland that when a big national team comes, everyone's up for it. Doesn't matter if the game means nothing or everything, everyone gets up for it, and they will as well. It's the first game in the Premier League. I have this thing as well, like I treat the first game of the season, and it's incredibly irrational, but as a football fan, I treat it like it pivots our whole season. So if we win it, we can win everything. If we get beat, like, it's the end of the world. If we draw, it's like, well, we're not going to win the league. And of course that's not the case, but I actually was thinking about it. I was like, when was the last Liverpool manager to win their first game? And I think it might have been Houllier in his first. Souness, is it? That's how far it is. So
solo manager, it is Graham Souness.
What we don't want is a Brendan Rodgers. You're excited for the season and then you get twatted 3-0.
The flip side is though, Souness was crap.
Yeah.
he won his first game.
It shows the madness of the theory, but that's just like the irrational sort of nature of the first game of the season. It just becomes a cup final to me. And I think I want to see this new identity of Liverpool. I want to see this new way of playing. I don't think we'll see the finished product by any stretch of imagination, because a lot of the players he's only had for 2 weeks or whatever, so we have to be mindful of that. But you want to see Liverpool control the game. You want to see Liverpool essentially do what they've done in pre-season, because I've been really, really excited about what they've done, knowing that he's only had a matter of weeks to work with some players and a couple of months to work with the others. So it's a cup final in my head, Neil.
This is Talking Reds. We are with NordVPN, so if you go to nordvpn.com/TAW. Excuse me, sorry about that. You can sign up there. Josh, you might have to fill for me here. I don't know what's happened there to me throat. I've been a bit ill all week, actually, in and out. You can hear I'm a bit croaky. So nordvpn.com/TAW. You can sign up there, 4 months free, and there's loads and loads of benefits from it. We've mentioned before about the idea of being able to protect your online activity from a wide variety of things. But at this time of year, many people are abroad. I know a lot of people are looking forward to watching this game from abroad, and the best way to do it may well be through using a VPN or something like that. I don't know if that's legal or illegal, but we'll just roll with the punches at this stage. I've barely got any voice left, and I've got a lot of shows today, so I don't know quite how that's going to work out. All of that's available through signing up with the Anfield Wrap. It supports us, but it's also a very, very good product that we now all use on a regular basis as well, since they've been partnering with us, and we're very, very grateful for it. So nordvpn.com/TAW to be able to see all the benefits that you can get from signing up with Nord. Josh, anything in the comments?
Just a lot of excitement for the season generally. A couple
of
comments.
I'm happy about that, by the way.
A couple of comments about signings, but that's to be expected.
We'll do that in a minute.
Scott McCauley says absolutely buzzing for the start of the season. Sounds to be nice, but it's time to back the boys. I completely agree with that. Tis the season is one of the names that I just can't read out. I'm sorry. Starting 11 tomorrow is one of the questions. Surely similar to Sevilla. Have a nice weekend, fellas. Cheers, Josh, and you.
What are you picking?
I'm going very similar to Sevilla. I'm probably making 2 changes. Definitely Andy Robertson for Costa Simicas, and I'm going to do Curtis Jones for Ryan Gravenberch.
Jones for Gravenberch?
Yeah. I'd like to see Szoboszlai in the 10. I'm all right with the idea generally of him being used in the 6 at times throughout the season. I really want to see what he's like close to goal, because I want to see more of that sort of, almost thunderous side of Szoboszlai. I want to see him having the freer role, which I think the 10 is in this sort of slot system. I think there's lads who feel aggrieved to miss out there. Gravenberch being one, Harvey Elliott being another.
I feel so sly on Harvey Elliott, by the way. He couldn't have done the final 6 months of last season and then pre-season. He could not have done any more to be in the starting lineup.
And I think he'll still get loads of games this season. He'd be one of those strange ones, Harvey Elliott, where I think he'd probably he'd make a claim to be the most capital Liverpool player this season. He could be, the lad who appears the most, probably not getting the most minutes by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he'd be one of those who's constantly coming off the bench, constantly making appearances. But yeah, for this one, I do want to see Szoboszlai in the 10. Exactly
the same, but I don't think so. I think he'll do Andy Robertson. Just Andy Robertson against Las Palmas looked like a fella who was determined to play that first game, and I think he'll do Gravenberch. I think he's probably made a little promise to Gravenberch here. I think he's probably a player that he's known very well from Holland. Obviously, he's from Holland himself, and I think he has a bit of a plan for him this season, which I'm quite excited about. I've said it on other shows. Whenever you see the two in front of the defence, just suddenly it feels like it just unlocks so many more opportunities for the players that we've got at our disposal in those positions, and then also the players that we've got that will play a 10, Harvey Elliott, Szoboszlai and so on. But yeah, I would do Curtis Jones, but I don't think he will.
I'd do Szoboszlai, Jones and Elliott. That's what I'd do. I don't know if he will, but I thought McAllister just looked well off the pace against Sevilla. Now it might have changed. He's had another week's training, so it could all be a bit different. But I would like to see the midfield that starts against Arsenal in pre-season basically is the one I'd like to see, and I think having a little bit more to unpick Ipswich would be no bad thing. I also just think you get yourself into a situation where I don't know where Elliott's game comes from. Full stop, because I wouldn't be picking him against Brentford because they're a team of enormous grocs, and then the next one after that's Old Trafford. So I would almost go with that idea. I take your Gravenberch point. I'd probably look to bring him in the next couple. Also, there's the 5 subs, and I'd go Trent right back, and I'd go Robertson left back. As well.
I with McAllister, I play him, and the reason is because when you watch the team in pre-season against Betis, it looked like a team of players who this pre-season game had come too soon for them, and they play against Arsenal, he looked great, and so I'm hoping for the same from McAllister basically. Yeah, but I agree on Elliott.
Yeah, I think it could be absolutely fine. I think we're all sort of committed to the front three. I'm really excited about seeing Jota. I think that Jota could be a really exciting season for him, and for me, when people do the winners and losers from pre-season with the fullness of time, the biggest winner from pre-season for me has been Jota.
It's not just a goal either. It's all round play. He's brilliant. He is like when we talk about having a number 9, he is like, to me, the perfect number 9 in terms of, he is a bit scrappy, and it doesn't look like gorgeous at times, but then he blams one in like he did against Sevilla. I also thought he was brilliant in the build-up play for 2 of the goals, I think, against Sevilla. When you think about like the new season, you think about the first game, it's like it's all the hope and the dreams and the opportunity that's ahead of you. And I feel like when Jota's in the team, and the idea that if Jota was fit and able to stay fit for the next 3 games, especially, like it just feels like all the opportunities are endless.
Yep, no, very much so. And it is also worth saying he's going to get to pick a really good bench. I mean, no matter what he does, it's going to be a really, really good bench in there. Josh, the signings thing does come up, and the contracts come up as well. He just knocks the contracts away, but he was very, very open, I thought, on the Zubimendi situation. I think I do worry that Liverpool's pursuit of perfect may leave them to be knocking back very good. Also in the context of a full season, I worry about that as well. I keep saying it, what feels as though it's, might not be quite right in mid-August, you might be crying out for when you get to mid-December. And, Slot he plays 48 games last season in Holland, Slot. That as they win the Cup and doing a little bit in Europe. He's playing at minimum of 48 games this season for us. It's already done. It's confirmed he's playing 48 games. Everything beyond that, it does become a thing. But he was very honest about it. You've got to sort of take him at face value that they are looking behind the scenes, they are working on stuff. It just slightly begs the question, really, at this point as to what's taken this long, if you see what I mean. And that might be unfair. You should have a look at people. I take all the hits on that one. But he's come in with a really strong idea, I think. And so it does sort of, again, beg the question why there couldn't have been a stronger idea in the market a bit earlier.
Yeah, it's interesting, really, because his language around it has been that he thinks the squad can't be improved on. And I think that's probably the point where we would sort of disagree with the managers, that we think the squad can be improved on. We maybe don't think the first 11 are sort of fittest can't be improved on. But then you put in your newsletter yesterday that, you know, the first 11 when the sun's shining in August is completely different to what it's like in December. You need all these options, you need all these bodies, and I made the point on the gutter yesterday and got a bit of flack for it on social media really, but like I made the point that last season they didn't go and get the 6 they wanted. They went and got Endo as the sort of, you know, the very good option like you're talking about. And I think people are a bit revisionist about Endo really, in the sense that, listen, I don't think he fits a slot system at all. I'm purely talking about the signing of Endo here rather than Endo in actuality as a player. But Klopp makes that signing last season. Endo's very good for, I would argue, 2/3, maybe even just the sort of middle third of the season, and that gets Liverpool through a really tricky period. It gets Liverpool through a really tricky period of the season.
Keeps them in contention for everything.
Exactly. So I think there is a very good Endo type signing you can make that is more suited to Slot's system, and that's where I don't really see eye to eye with the manager or with, you know, what sort of the whispers you get from behind the scenes in terms of what you're sort of seeing in the press. So I would like to see Liverpool going out and signing, you know, somebody to fill in that 6th position, because it's clearly an area they think they need to strengthen. I don't think Endo can be the option over the course of the season, but I believe there's someone like an Endo who's just kicking around at a Mainz or a Stuttgart or wherever he was before, who can pass the ball, get on it a bit more.
It doesn't need to be an Endo. There's no way the drop off from Zubimendi to you know, the drop off is that start in terms of what I mean potential players that they can sign that position.
If you're not going to go and get the sort of best option, and you don't want to go for the sort of B, then you know, someone you can bring in who can be around the squad, who can be the option in the squad, rather than the sort of, you know, going and spending 50 million on the lad who they think is probably not better than 3 of their options in midfield.
I think with it, Craig, when we talk about backing the manager, and I'm backing the manager 100%, and what we're backing him as a coach. So I think it's two things that are true simultaneously. One is I think he can get a great deal out of the players and out of the group. I think he can get, you know, arguably possibly even end up getting more out of them. Like I'm everything you're hearing about him, what's being said, the way everyone's acting, and again the reports that came in both when he first signed and what's coming since. He's obviously a really, really good training ground manager. He improves footballers individually. He creates a collective. My point is I'm backing him to the absolute hilt. Yeah. And the act of backing the manager this time is it's not the same as backing Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp, you'd massively backed him culturally. I knew that would filter all around the place. With this fella, if you're backing him as a coach. So I back him 100%. I want to be really, really clear about that. And that's where it does feel disingenuous. There's things he can fix that I think are straightforward. First half an hour of games last season in the league, Liverpool score 17 and concede 14. The season before, they scored 19 and concede 18. Arsenal last season were 25 and 8. Season before 29 and 11. City last season were 29 and 8, and the season before 27 and 8. He fixes that. Straight away, you're looking at 5 to 10 more points. Genuinely, you're looking at 5 to 10 more points. You fix that, you're looking at 5 to 10 more points. So it isn't saying he can't improve us, I think, with what he does on the training ground. It is just, and he can't improve the players, it is just saying that what you really want him to have is every tool at his disposal. You want him to have the best possible chance, because I think he can win the league.
Yes, me too. And I think he thinks he can win the league. I think that I think the problem for fans is that, yes, I think I think the majority of fans will look at Arne Slot and they'll back him from the beginning and they'll think he can make us great. The problem is that we know we have to be perfect to be able to achieve the things that we want to achieve, and so you need to give him the best possible opportunity to do that. You need to feel like at the end of the transfer window, Slot's done everything he could in terms of coaching. He's thought of this new style. He's, you know, Liverpool going to have slightly new identity. He's looked at little ways in which he can improve and all of that, but you need to feel like the team behind the team have done everything that they can to help him. With signings, like, unless it's Anthony Gordon or it's someone within the Premier League, I actually don't think a new signing comes in and is, you know, he's for the next 3 games, certainly not tomorrow, but the next 2 games, and then the 2 games after the international break. I'm actually thinking of a player that after he's bedded in is able to impact
by Arne Slot.
Exactly, is able to impact the season further down the season, if that makes sense. We've seen so many times under Jurgen where that was the case. I know Fabinho's the big one, Chamberlain, Robertson. These are players that come January, I'm about to say it, feel like a new signing 6 months later because they've had time to bed in. And what I don't want is Liverpool saying they will wait to January, and then they wait to January, and then that player really is probably only going to make an impact the following season. And then you've got 3 players here who are so key to the culture, they're all part of the leadership team. Feels insane to have let 3 players get to this stage. And look, I maybe understand, look, with the money men, they're looking at it and thinking, if we give Salah a contract 6 months ago, it cost us millions more because of his wage and so on. But the Trent one just feels mad. Like, I've been thinking all summer that we have that done in the back pocket, and we've been holding on to it for a little PR move. It doesn't seem that to be the case, with something that Trent came out and said the other day. Van Dijk's obviously talking about transfers, and I think for the perception of Liverpool as a big club, as a club that's going to be winning, both internally and externally, by the way, towards new players. And look, this isn't like an ownership thing, because the ownership obviously said that Zubimendi, they obviously, it said the finances there to get Zubimendi, and it's one of those where Zubimendi decides he's not going to do it. And so this isn't like, it's a big fucking 2 weeks here for Liverpool, I think, and there's a lot of pressure. Being opportunistic means that if you don't quite make the opportunistic signings, it leaves you a little bit open here. So there's a lot to do, both internally but within the squad and the contracts, but also bringing in new players, fresh faces. Anything else in the comments, Josh?
Not a great deal, to be honest. It's just a mix of sort of excitement and a little bit of doubt around the lack of signings and things like that. And I sort of understand it from both points of view, really. Yeah, like listen, like, I think there's people who feel sort of doubt with optimism. There's people who feel doubt with a bit of pessimism. I understand there being pessimism around this time with the lack of new signings and things like that. But I think there is a really good squad there, and Jurgen Klopp proved that he left a good squad last season. He talked multiple times about leaving a good squad, and we all backed Jurgen Klopp to the hilt. So I think you're right to say, Neil, we should just get behind this manager and this squad, because there's a lot to be going.
Just one more thing on that. Like, everyone celebrated the idea of Michael Edwards coming in, and Michael Edwards is doing Michael Edwards things, by the way. Like, this is what he's done throughout his time. If he doesn't get the belter, then he looks elsewhere to see, well, what belter can I get in another position? And that's probably what he's going to do.
It is indeed.
Whether we like it or not.
It is indeed. You've got the NordVPN thing there if you want to click it as a QR code. Hopefully that works neatly. Does that work? Henry's pulling a face. We're going to find out in a second or two whether or not it works. It's not, it's not perfect, any of this. Nothing is. It's a process. You improve as you go. Rome wasn't built in a day. Rome isn't even finished yet. Thank you very much indeed, Craig Hannan and Josh Sexton. We've got to go and do a call about the book, and then Craig's got to do whatever it is he's doing with Sam, and then he's on the road to Ipswich, where they will be reaching out to touch the hem of his garment. See you later.
A VPN, short for Virtual Private Network, is a cybersecurity tool for privacy and security. When you connect to it, a VPN creates a secure tunnel and secures data traveling between you and the VPN server. Encryption scrambles data, so to anyone outside the encrypted tunnel, the information looks like gibberish, meaning no snoops can sneak a peek at your online activity. NordVPN ensures that you can browse safely and privately in just a few clicks.